All right, guys, so let's get started with, I guess, adding in the fields that we'll need for signing up beyond the email and password fields. And let's make it look a little bit nicer because right now it's pretty bland. It's going to be nice if we give our app a bit of default styling. So let's do that. So in thinking about what kind of fields we will need for a registration, we'll also need their name and a username and password again. So password again, name and username. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and now I'm going to, what are we going to do here? Okay. We're going to create a row. And then I'm going to wrap this in div class name call medium 6. And we're going to just move this right up in here and then re-indent this. And then I'm going to copy the email field right here. And then the password as well. I'm going to copy that into div class name call medium 6 and just set it here. Now I am going to put the name and username around here. So this will be name and then username. So the type for both of these is going to be text. And then we have a lot of little copying and pasting to do here. I'll save that. All right. And then the password again, they should be on their own row. So I'm going to close that row and then div class name row, just like that. And then I will copy this and password again. Just like that. Just want to save this, see how that looks. Looks okay. So now I'm going to just inspect the form wrapper here. Set a max width of 600 pixels. And then margin auto. And then box shadow 0 pixels, 2 pixels, 15 pixels. RGBA 000.3. And we'll add some padding, so about 15 pixels. And some border radius. So margin top is going to be 50 pixels. And then border radius is going to be about 10 pixels. That looks okay. So I'm going to copy this and put it into, are we using app.css? I don't think we are. No. So let's just create in the source directory a new directory called assets. And then a new directory called swag.css, and then a new file called swag.css. And that was called form wrapper. And we'll just paste that in there like that. And then app needs to get a background of kind of a gray. And then we'll also add background to this form wrapper of white. There we go. Let's save this. I'm going to zoom out a bit because it's just very, yeah. All right, and then what I will do is in app.js, I'm going to import current directory. We'll look in assets, CSS, swag.css. So let's save this, and there we go. And now the buttons, I want to look a little bit different as well. So what I will do is set a padding to 5 pixels and then 15 pixels. And it's going to have to be more, 30. And the border radius of 50 pixels. That looks okay. So in swag, I will say button, and then I will need to mark both of these important so that they get applied even though we're using bootstrap styles underneath. And also kind of like, I want it to be centered. Although, yeah, that's fine. Okay. I'll do that right here. Div class name, text center. There we go. It doesn't look like it did it. Oh, that's on the login form. Let me copy this over to the sign up form. There we go. Okay, good stuff. So now we've got a form that will take name, username, email, password, and password again. So what I'll do is on submit, we'll do just a quick check here, and also put error just like that into the state. If any fields are blank, we'll return an error and do nothing else. And if the passwords don't match, we'll also do an error. Yeah, but then we're going to have to worry about email matching. So we'll also have to we'll manage that on the server level and just return an error from there and set that on the props, I guess. Similar to how we did before. So let's create a variable called empty. It is 0. And then object.keys, this.state map. And then if this.state key equals just an empty string, and we'll say empty plus equals 1. And then if empty is greater than 0, we'll return this dot set state error all fields required. And we could do this through Formic. I hadn't thought about that until right now. Else if this.state.password does not equal this.state.password again, then return this.setState error passwords must match. There. So let's save this. And by returning these, we can prevent this little bit of code from running. So if we do this, then look in here, we'll see that, well, let me cancel out of the chat server and start it again. When I hit this, we see nothing is printed out here because it's getting caught, but we're not doing anything with the error message yet. So if this.state.error, we will make a paragraph, class name of text danger for the red highlighting, and we'll just print out this.state.error. Let's save. And then if I hit sign up, it says all fields required. Good stuff. When I hit sign up, passwords must match. Okay, let's hit sign up, and then we've got this here. What we need to do is now just modify the actual script here. So we also need to add name, this.state.name, and username is this.state.username. So there we go. Now let's do this again. Sign up, and it says all fields required. I filled in all fields. Okay, there we go. And we've got that data on the chat server. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run an LB model profile. Store in memory, persisted, sure, yes. Name, string. Email, it's going to be a string. Created, it's going to be a date, and that is fine. So now what we'll do is just a few relations. And user type is going to be belongs to. Model is going to be user. And foreign key is going to be user ID. And then that's it for profile. Now I think we'll have to subclass the user again in order to relate this model to it, but let's see what happens here. Oh, whoops, not that, just the chat server command. So actually, let's run npm start. And then I'll start localhost at port 8080. And we'll go into the Explorer and user, so it's actually capital user. So let's Control C and refresh. I believe actually we can create relations using model config. So let's see if we can get that done. Model config, we have user here. Let's create relations, which is an array of objects. Let's say profile. It's going to be a type of has one. Model is going to be profile. And we'll say foreign key is just a blank string because it's really managed from the profile side. Now let's Control C and run this again. All right. Valid relation type undefined. It doesn't tell us if it's in the file of profile or let's change this. Doubt it's that. Okay. And I just realized we set this to an array instead of an object. Relations should always be an object. And there we go. We've got this back up and running. Let's refresh this page. When we go in here, we see profiles. Okay. So awesome. So now what we're going to do is in our chat server, we're going to say parsed is JSON.parse message, and if parsed, then we can continue. Now we can get the type, so message.type or parsed.type, and do something different depending on what it is. So for instance, let's create a switch on parsed.type. Let me make sure that's what we're actually sending it through as. Yes, type equals. And then what we'll do from here is we just say case sign up. We will actually, create the user account. So models.user create, and we will attempt to create it with parsed.data, and then we'll get the error or the user here, and we also need a default. So console log, nothing to see here. Will work for now. So here, if there's an error, we will essentially broadcast to this connection that there was an error. Otherwise, we will, and how we do that actually is, for right now, we will simply pong a message, much like our ping pong example of how a standard API works. We will just send a message back to this existing client saying there was an error. So let's go ahead and write that. So WS send, we will send JSON stringify type error, and then the error will be equal to just like that. So that's if there was an error. So if there's a user, we're actually going to now create a profile as well. So models.profile create, and here we'll say user ID is user.id. We will set name equal to parsed.data.name and email as parsed.data.email, and that is it. Now, assuming the error creation didn't fail, this code will get run, then we'll either get a profile error or a profile. So if this is the case, then we basically want to automatically log in the user and then get their profile and user account and send it all back to them. So the way we're going to do that is basically, well, we'll have a command because we're going to be doing the login function as well. So what we will do is here we'll create a function called login, and what we will pass this is email address and the password. So email, pass, and that's it. So when we log in, what we need to do is basically call user.login. So models.user.login. And we will send the email and pass and res, actually error or result. If error, we'll just basically send this error. Else, we will need to get their user account from the tokens ID. So the result will actually be a token. So let's go with result, or rather models.user.find1, where ID is equal to result.userid. So we need to put this into a where statement. And then we'll say include profile. Then here we'll either have error2 or user. Okay. So if we have error2, then we'll just copy this down here. And we'll send an error to the client. Now, if we don't get error2, then what we need to do is send the result as the token object, and then the user as the user object. So we'll say ws send json.stringify. Type is going to be logged in, and then data is going to be an object. Token object It's going, well, let's just call it session. It's going to be result. User is going to be user. So let's save this. And then in this switch statement, we're going to say case login, because we can finish this up right here. We will just call that login function. So login with parsed data email, parsed data password. So let's save this. And then we need to do one more thing. Let's actually connect this to a real data source, which will be MongoDB. So let's jump into that. Let's just rename this DB1 for now because it will conflict. And then in here, let's run lb data source in our root directory of the chat server. The data source name will be DB. We want to use MongoDB. Host is going to be localhost. Port is 27017. User is blank and password is blank. And database is going to be chat server. Install, yes, okay. Yeah, and that's all we need to do for that. Now, barring any small issues that we've created within the code, this should just generally work, at least from the chat server side. We still need to actually save the token on the client side and whatnot. So let's go ahead and write node server / chat server.js. And then we will jump into our React application here and refresh to make sure the socket's connected. And we'll discuss disconnecting sockets and stuff later on. For right now, I'm going to just drag this down a little bit. We'll create a user with password and password. Now I'm on the network tab. When we hit sign up, all fields are required, but I've got all fields in there. That's weird how that does that. I'm probably missing something. Well, let's look in here. Okay. So it was working the entire time. Now, if we scroll through the network tab here, we should be able to find our socket connection. And here we go. So localhost. So what we have here is the first sign up that we sent. It returned username, email required. And then we sent it again. Username, email required. We sent the email though. Then we have an error here. User instance, username, user already exists. Okay, so the email already exists, so we've got it created. We're going to have to go through this a little more, but basically this is what the server looks like going back and forth. So now if I go to login, do that and hit login, and I got email and password, and we're getting an error. Well, let me refresh this.